if I told you there was a pediatric procedure performed back in the 90s that causes the same trauma as a violent rape? In fact, children undergoing this procedure have so much in common with child sexual abuse victims that they were often used as proxies in child sexual abuse studies. That procedure is actually still widely performed today. And not only that, but it is routinely marketed as safe, low risk, and painless. VCUG patients were used as stand-ins for child sexual abuse victims as early as 1990. And yet you will not find a single medical website today that addresses this risk or even acknowledges it. I am 29 years old. I had a medically unnecessary VCUG test when I was 2. I grew up with this pervasive sense of defectiveness. I just felt all sorts of wrong.
The nurses and techs holding me down, and they went to clean the area, which is what they always do, of course. Even that, it felt abrasive and rough.
A nurse will start by cleaning the private area with an antiseptic soap. This tends to feel cold and wet.
I told her, like, oh, hey, like, that kind of hurts, like, that kind of is stinging. And she gave me this look like, you're lying.
Most of us have UTIs at the time of this, or we're recovering from UTIs.
So I likely had an active UTI while they were cleaning my genitalia and doing all of this. So it's like, okay, yeah, no crap, it hurt. It's gonna hurt.
The catheter will be advanced through the urethra, the opening through which your child pees, and into the bladder. Some find that this part of the procedure is not very pleasant.
While I'm fully awake with no anesthesia, no lidocaine.
A lidocaine gel is placed on their privates to numb the area.
Nothing topical, nothing to help numb the pain.
Multiple nurses or assistants or doctors holding my legs, down and open on the table.
Literally was an uncontrollable reaction of fight or flight. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna die. This is so painful. I have to get out.
During the procedure, whenever possible, your child's privacy will be respected. Eventually, your child will be asked to pee on the table. For some children, urinating on the table is the hardest part of the test.
Completely out of character for me. I was crying, begging, kicking, screaming, doing everything I could to try to get them to stop.
At this point, your child may feel some discomfort. Children tell us that it feels weird, stings, or pinches a little.
It was obviously very painful. I started screaming bloody murder and fighting with everything I had.
Only memory I had as a kid was being in the room and feeling them insert the catheter, which was just this extremely sharp pain.
Hi, my name is Juliana. I came to Children's Mercy to have a special test done called a VCUG.
I got the courage to call my mom. She said, you had this procedure. It was inhumane what they did to you.
If you don't stop struggling, we're going to strap you down. We're going to make it hurt way worse.
You were screaming and crying, and they had to put your legs in devices and restrain you.
And I screamed so loudly that my mom, who was fully locked out of the room, heard me down the hallway, started banging on the door.
And she said, I screamed at the doctor, begging them to stop what they were doing to you.
So they let her in, and she pulled me off the table and said, this is barbaric.
They began to blackmail her that they will be contacting CPS.
One of them, physically holding me down, said to me, stop struggling. We do dozens of these every day. You are the worst patient we've ever had. I just can't imagine ever saying this to a child. I was in severe pain.
They gave me a gown to wear and reminded me that I needed to take off all my clothes, even my underwear.
I was taken to a room. My pants and underwear were removed. I was placed on this table and told to lie down. There were a lot of large machines around me and adults standing over my body.
Take all your clothes off, even your underwear. Only one adult can come with you. Who will you pick?
They didn't allow my mom in the room.
I think there was a lot of interpreted betrayal because she never was in the VCUG room with me. They didn't let her.
So she helped to undress me.
So I went back alone.
Your parents can stand at the head of the table and hold your hands.
And then she was asked to leave the room.
It feels like abandonment in a way.
In a room full of doctors, nurses, and techs who I don't know.
And that's not my parents' fault. My parents were not told the truth about this.
A big part of surviving this procedure is that your parents feel a lot of guilt.
Informed consent, it should be more emphasized because you know that the parents are in a vulnerable state of mind.
My parents, I truly believe they would never have done this test if they knew what they know now.
Parents have been lied to and misinformed about, what is being done to their children.
This was not properly explained to my parents. Obviously, a 5 or 6-year-old cannot give consent.
I think it's taught in medical schools that it's not painful, and it's also a belief that children don't experience pain the same way adults do.
I thought, okay, I'm gonna scream louder because my dad and my sister are outside in the waiting room. Maybe they'll be able to hear me, and then they'll come in and tell these people to stop.
When you're a kid, you're not believed as easily, because when you're a kid, you're really vulnerable, and it's easy to just say, stop, you're just being dramatic. It's especially easy to say that when it comes from a lot of people who have not been on the table. Every single time I had that test, there were other people in that room, and they would probably tell me that I'm either a liar or that I just misremembered it or that I'm crazy, but they weren't the ones on that table. They were next to the table. And if I was in their shoes, then I might feel the same way. But because I was on the table, I can tell them a very different side of the story, which is that it was just absolutely horrible.
but they may feel confined and get upset and cry during this time. Feel free to use a pacifier, a blanket, or just the sound of your voice to comfort them during the test.
And so many people just are in disbelief. And just like you said, you were like, there's no way that they could still be performing this, knowing that it's pretty much, child sexual abuse.
Yeah.
Yeah. At this point, we can't be doing this anymore. There are alternatives, and even if there wasn't, they should be in development. Even if these tests were only performed when they were completely necessary, and even if they diagnose perfectly, they are still causing trauma that is equivalent to sexual abuse. How can you justify that from a risk versus benefit standpoint? The effects of this procedure include becoming actively suicidal.
You would think there would be some sort of innovation or change. There are these alternatives, and we're not doing them for some odd reason.
I had VCUG corrective surgery, failed, another VCUG, another corrective surgery, the same one, failed again, another VCUG.
VCUGs are a diagnostic test. If you have VUR, it doesn't treat it. Treatment would be something like surgery.
They told my parents, we've done 2 surgeries, it's not working, we really have to figure out what's wrong, which I'm pretty sure once you have that surgery, you're not supposed to have VCUGs.
For me, personally, it's not medically necessary because there are other measures available, and parents have been lied to about that.
I mean, the first test, perhaps you could say it was necessary, but there were so many things about it that weren't done in the right way that could have been avoided. The emotional and physical exhaustion that our parents are under when their children are suffering to this level makes them so much more susceptible to agreeing to whatever doctors push on them.
I always want to say that I'm the kind of girl that beat the living crap out of a person who was trying to hurt me, but I'm not that girl. My natural response is to freeze, because that's what I was taught.
I've attempted suicide. I have been sexually assaulted. I've been involved in domestic violence. I was extremely susceptible to abuse as a direct result of this procedure.
I think I was a lot more lighthearted and fun, but I went to being scared of everything. I think I was very, very different afterwards.
And it destroyed my mental health very quickly. I lost a lot of my childhood to depression. I was suicidal at the age of 8, and that continued until my 20s. Every day it felt impossible to go to school and to pretend to be okay.
Growing up, I felt so broken and defective and violated all the time.
I started to believe myself to be less human. Would tell my mom there's something wrong with me. She'd be like, you're just a normal kid. I'd be like, no, because I just was so affected by it.
Those feelings completely derailed my life, and those bodily sensations that I relived every day from the procedure is what led me to starving myself when I was 14. I just wanted to die. I didn't want to exist anymore.
In my 3rd VCUG, that was the last one my mom 100% would not let me have anymore. She's a CSA survivor. She started recognizing that I was reacting the same way.
The first time I remember wanting to die was in 5th grade. I hated my body. I starved my body. I started self-harming in 6th grade.
So I was suicidal and I was self-harming all throughout that time of my life.
I would cut so much to the point of almost needing stitches. I became very suicidal.
I feel like I would have lived such a different childhood. It's unfortunate because I could have avoided living with PTSD for this long.
It made me feel like I didn't really have a say in anything that happened to me.
It turned my childhood very dark.
After the VCUGs, I became very anxious.
It made me a lot more withdrawn. I think I had a lot more social anxiety afterwards. I just shut down.
I became a very mute and anxious child.
It made it hard to make friends because I think my ability to speak got impacted.
I don't really have a lot of long-term friendships.
I was bullied a lot, didn't have a ton of friends.
I really don't think I had any friends until 5th grade.
I wasn't able to make friends as a child.
It was hard to value my own opinions. I always feel like I'm overreacting because that's what I was told back then when I had my own concerns about what was happening to me. And that's something I still carry with me. The hardest thing is to believe myself.
We all had this procedure done, which has been repeatedly proven to be similar to child sexual abuse, which fuels these health issues. And then, ironically, we can't even seek treatment. We have no intention of stepping anywhere near a clinic ever again. When I finally recovered my repressed memories of VCUG trauma, I was pregnant. I developed severe PTSD and had a miscarriage 2 weeks later. Time and time again, doctors have failed parents by not disclosing the life-altering risk of VCUG. Kids deserve better, and we will not be silenced.
Avoided doctors for my whole life until I was 18 or 19.
There's a reason why every time I go to the doctors, I'm absolutely out of commission.
I am at a high risk for breast cancer. I cannot go to a screening.
I would hit and kick and bite anyone that would come near me. Every doctor's appointment that I was dragged to, I would threaten to kill anyone in the room.
Avoidance of medical care has been a very huge issue for me, and I feel like that's definitely a very under-recognized barrier to medical care.
I think it's worth mentioning that I didn't get diagnosed with PTSD until I was 20 or 21, and everything happened when I was 6. I would sit there and be like, how do you not look at me and think I don't need help?
Terrified of sex, terrified of touching myself.
It was just very obvious to me that I had a definite fear of my genitals.
I'm also dealing with vaginismus.
I do struggle with vaginismus.
I always kind of suspected that I had vaginismus.
But yeah, haven't been able to use tampons.
Very against using tampons.
It was explained to me how they worked. I had the pamphlet, I tried.
I went to my gynecologist. They told me I did not have vaginismus at all, so I very naively believed them over myself.
I talked to a couple of my girlfriends, was like, how do you do it? I physically couldn't do it.
And I'm working with a sex therapist, and I'll probably have to do pelvic floor physical therapy, but right now, the latter of the two is just still too terrifying to contemplate.
Before the test begins, your child will be asked to position their body in a specific way. Girls will be asked to make frog legs or butterfly.
Technologists will wash your private area with special brown soap and put a tiny tube in where your pee comes out. Your job during this time is to hold very still. You will see a TV screen. You can watch your bladder fill up with the special water that, when your bladder is full, the doctor will ask you to roll a little to the left, and then your doctor will ask you to pee in a special towel or container and take pictures while you pee. The technologist will take your picture with the X-ray camera on the ceiling. Be sure to smile.
It made sense because being a kid, you have this procedure and then you show all the signs of child sexual abuse.
He said that it was kind of in the back of his mind that I probably was sexually assaulted as a kid.
And she looked at me again. She said, Ashley, like, I know I've already asked you this, but have you ever been sexually abused as a child?
And I really thought like I had been traumatized by a family member when I was younger.
I was seeing people on the like vaginismus forums and stuff talking about sexual trauma, religious trauma. I'm like, okay, I don't have any of that. I've never been raped.
Then I saw that article on how it could cause trauma similar to that of assault.
Rape victims experience a lot of the same symptoms we do.
And it just clicked for me.
I found those articles of the studies where they have used kids who have gone through VCUGs as stand-in for child sexual assault, where they've compared it and shown that it causes the same trauma as that.
At home, your child may return to their normal daily activities. Please encourage your child to drink extra fluids like water and juice. You may notice a pink color the first time your child pees, which is very normal. Also normal is complaining of some burning or mild irritation from the catheter. Sitting in warm bath water can be soothing.
We hope this video has helped to prepare you and your child by giving you a better understanding of what happens during a VCUG. We are here to make your experience the best we possibly can. Thank you.